Hey kids, it's FNGR, and remember that analysis video I talked vaguely about last time? It's up and running. If you need a link, it's off to the side of the channel here, or in an annotation here. There's only one video up, and I'm looking forward to putting another up Saturday. Seeing as how as bronies we have nothing to look forward to Saturday anymore for the time being, consider giving my analysis and review awareness videos a watch. To clear things up, I very much respect Equestria Daily, a website that's been with bronies since before the first BronyCon, and whose exposure has been very useful in the growth of the fandom. My attempts to get the staff to reconsider their stance on analysis is unfortunately firm, but I do respect their right to govern their website as they see fit. That said, over on Analysis Daily, I'm doing my best to try and give everyone I can an equal shake. I know what some of my fans are likely to say, FNGR, does this mean you're not going to be a bastard anymore? Well, not over there, I'm not. I do take analysis very seriously, and in theory this was supposed to be my clean channel. And if you've kept up between the 8chan podcast, the Burning Donut podcast, the Suriano podcast, well, you get the idea. So, updates. God be willing, the next podcast I put up will be Mr. Caden Marks from the commentary community, who has been waiting 5 weeks very patiently. He was joined by Dirtbag Redden, Master TP10, and Okizuma, the internet's #1 Jerry Pete hater. I do apologize as things have gotten a bit podcast heavy lately. If you're looking for analysis, my good friend British Ninja just put up a video out for Princess Spike, finally here. There is a lot of love, care, and effort that might have otherwise gone unnoticed in this community, as many of us do not have the avenue to get the attention so desperately needed, and this work took him well over 2 months. So I would take it as a personal favor if you could at least give him a peek. I do this here as the next 10 analysts I'm spotlighting on the Analyst Daily video have already been chosen, and it wouldn't be fair to shoehorn him in. I thank you and I love all of you for your continued support. I promise I'll do my best to do my best by the community. This feels really different and I'm starting to go into withdrawal. Pretty soon I'm gonna need to kick a puppy or something. Okay, love you, bye. Oh, one more thing! I'm having another installment from that AbagofVikoden podcast that featured Silver Quill, the Burning Donut, Calpain, and myself, where we all talk about Season 5's debut as well as the final for MLP, and a bit more. Enjoy.
But yeah, speaking of discussion, let's go back to MLP here for a little bit. What do you think has been some of the strong and conversely some of the weak points for Season 5?
The weakest point was what about Discord? The strongest point...
Oh, we are getting along just fine today.
Yeah.
Good job, sir.
The strongest point...
Am I the only guy who liked that episode?
You and British Ninja. You and British Ninja could be off in the boondocks with that.
I'm usually a calm guy. What about Discord was actually the first review that I did when I came back from my editorials. And it was the only MLP episode I've seen in my lifetime where I actually felt insulted as a writer for watching it.
I turned it off. I didn't finish it.
Yeah. I finished it. Like I even said in the review, I was like, I only finished it because I could have some sort of credibility towards writing the review. Because if it solved everything at the end somehow and still made it good, people in the comments would be like, oh, you didn't watch the last 5 minutes.
I have friends. It was like, I took them at face value. I was like, did this really improve past this point? They're like, no, you basically, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So,
but the strongest part, I would say, both the premieres and the finales, which kind of is a false comparison because the finales and premieres are allowed to be a little more over the top.
Yeah.
You know, they're allowed to be a little more dense with what types of stories they are conveying, as well as the visuals and just everything like that. But if I was not allowed to pick those, I would probably
you totally are allowed to pick those.
Amending. Yeah.
I'm potentially going to say something that might trigger you here, sir. So what you're saying is that you would prefer the more adventure aspects like Tommy Oliver does for the show.
Woo! I mean, possibly. The thing is that...
That's not a bad thing. I mean, it's nothing to feel bad about. If you like the continuity of the show, I don't know, there's a guy somewhere in this podcast who springs up with a continuity animation or whatever. But
yeah.
Just wait until I talk about amending fences, boy, howdy.
I actually watched your last 2 videos, Silver Quill. Those were interesting. I found the adventurous part aspect of the show inherently interesting because, you know, we weren't confined to all of these types of cities. You know, we're confined to all of these different cities and areas on the map that we really haven't been able to explore. And that's really interesting. But what I liked about the premiere was that Starlight Glimmer was characterized by pretty much everything except herself. Like, obviously she characterized herself with like just how she was and how she acted, but like the propaganda within the speakers that were playing within the premiere, as well as like the song and like how everyone acted towards her. Like, this was one of the few episodes in the show where Starlight Glimmer was characterized more by everyone around her than herself. Whereas you have pretty much every other villain that is characterized by a speech of how evil they are as well as what they do. Whereas Starlight Glimmer would get like crushed by Tyrek in 5 seconds. Like, he'd just stomp her underneath his hoof and be like, okay, let me just keep killing Equestria.
Well, that's not a fair comparison after he's like, absorbed all the strength of like 3 alicorns. She'd kick his ass in his old form.
Yeah, you didn't let me finish. I like it when things change, I guess, to put it completely honest. Like, there are a lot of people who are very upset that the show is not going back to what seasons 1 and 2 are, but I really, really, really get scared when shows go the way of Family Guy, Big Bang Theory, 2.5 Men, all of which are like complete popcorn shitty shows. Yeah. But I don't want MLP to die a slow, painful death. And the way that it will do that is if they repeated seasons 1 and 2 all over again.
For me, and I've always looked at it as what's that word? Pragmatic. I always like to think of the future. I always like to think of the current as the best because it's what I have. That's why when someone sits there and puts to me, "Oh, Lauren Faust was the best," I was like, I always come from the first church of Megan. You know why? Because she's what we got. I might as well act like it's the best. And you know what? There's a lot of great episodes. So it's not like I'm going out on a complete and insane limb of doing that. I don't feel that those people are wrong for having that opinion, and everyone is allowed to have their own bias, and there should be room.
The thing is that people look to this show for different reasons. And I can understand if someone came into the show during seasons 1 and 2 and they wanted something that was completely off the beaten path from where the show was currently going.
You mean like
I understand that.
You mean like war?
Not that, but like, seasons 1 and 2 had all of, like, at least I'm told, and I kind of agree. People say that they had all of these like fantasy elements and like token elements, and like, why didn't they keep going back to those? We had dragons and we had myths and we had et cetera, et cetera. I don't find that as inherently compelling as a world that's a little more realistic, but focuses on the faults of the characters themselves. Whereas that is not what was as much focused on. Like, they were still inherent components. Like Dragonshy, for example. There was a big, huge dragon, and the inherent component within it was Fluttershy's shyness and being able to stand up for herself. But I feel that the story could have been told better if there was no dragon in it, and Fluttershy was instead confronted with some sort of problem that made her question her shyness. But it's just, the dragon is easier because it's a big, huge MacGuffin that's stopping Equestria from working. Like, that's the other thing, is that with the Tyrek episode, it was entirely reliant on stopping some dude who is literally destroying the world. But I am more interested in people who are either, like, I'm more interested in stuff like Princess's Dream of Magic Sheep, where although they are like trying to defeat this big, huge MacGuffin, you have all of these intricacies in the background, such as the fact that Luna was basically mentally torturing herself since her return. And
I feel like I'm in the minority of liking that episode. Silver, how did you feel about that one?
I liked it. I mean,
or do we gotta wait?
Well, I loved Magic Sheep. That's the thing, is that I like episodes that have really low stakes, but the stakes feel high to the character.
Oh, you mean
because
like Pinkie,
if you can convey
Pride,
it well,
for example.
None of Pinkie Pie's problems are inherently terrible, and like that's not one of the reasons why she's my favorite pony. It's just kind of coincidence.
Being
like,
abandoned is a very relatable thing. No, I understand.
Yeah, like in Pinkie Pride, if she did not become the party planner, it's not the end of the world. But because she is, like the title suggests, prideful of her status as a party planner, that is inherently compelling because she is like terrified of not being number 1. But then you get the rug pulled from underneath you because she kind of admits that she doesn't have to be number 1 because she worked together with him. She wasn't the singular party planner.
I don't know. I always kind of felt that like the reason she felt that was because that was like the only thing she really gave value to. She doesn't really have value to any other aspect of her personality because she doesn't think like that. She's like, I throw parties, and
she cares about other people
better than me.
It's
The interesting thing is that there's with Pinkie, it feels like there's this kind of lack of character within her that Pinkie herself thinks is the case and everyone else doesn't. Like in Too Many Pinkie Pies, I know a lot of people hate that episode, but I felt that episode was really amazing just because it kind of showed what Pinkie thought of herself. She thought she was just a blind, happy, fun time smile maker because of the way that not only she taught the Pinkies, but because her inherently being the real Pinky showed how different she was from all the Pinkies that were just fucking everything up and trying to have nothing but fun.
Yeah.
And, while the ending was there's like acts, like the entirety of acts 1 through 3, except for the last like 2 minutes, was really inherently interesting to me. So I don't blame that episode for having, a very rushed ending.
I enjoy that episode enough, but watching it is an actual workout for me. There's so much going on. There's so much going on all at the same time that I actually feel like I'm burning calories trying to keep track of all of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any problem with those types of episodes. Like, you could always just pause it. I've done that a few times. Like, I just pause it if there's a lot happening. Or when I was I did the follow-up for Scaremaster for EQD, and I watched it the first time, and then I like paused it a bunch as I was watching it the second time, because you gotta like find like screen caps and neat stuff to say.
Yeah.
And there is a lot on the screen, especially in these previous seasons, like a lot of callbacks and a lot of stuff in the background where you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, so when you watch it the second time, you enjoy it more. But I don't know. I don't have that type of trouble. But the lowest was definitely What About Discord? I'm completely insulted that episode was made. Like, not insulted.
So you come from the thought of show don't tell, where that was all tell don't show.
It's not necessarily that. There are points in a story where you obviously have to tell. But the problem with that episode is that I feel that the episode was written as if the writer is talking down to us the entire time. Because not only do you have all of these characters basically being Twilight, but Twilight completely throws away all pretense of benefit of the doubt and begins to start questioning them and questioning Discord, which, like, I don't know if this is the case, but that's how I felt. Stomps on all of Discord's characterization that he's had up until now, as well as
he's still an evil prick.
I can understand. Well, I can understand that, but here's my follow up to that, and to me, something like that is an incomplete sentence. And then through that, Twilight learns a valuable lesson about letting titles go to her head and understanding that she's still mortal, human, however you want to put to it, and that she's capable of feeling things and experiencing things that she knows are wrong, and then the best thing to do is to come to terms with that so she can try to overcome it.
Well, the problem is that What About Discord was a lot like Princess Spike, in that the inherent problem was out of Twilight's control. Therefore, it is really hard for you to act as if they learned a lesson. Because not only that, but the episode becomes way more of a slog to watch, because you begin to get into this mindset of, okay, now we have to wait for them to tell her the lesson.
Well,
whereas you have episodes like Amending Fences, where the character slowly... If Amending Fences was written like What About Discord was written, it would have fell apart within the first act. The way that the writer of What About Discord wrote it was there was a lot of types of, like, the end irritated me, especially when Twilight was like, oh, it would have been totally funny if I thought you guys were affected by a spell or something. And like that basically to me says, why did you take 5 minutes away from my life with that plot hole in the first place? Like it wouldn't be a plot hole if it was written by a different person. And to go back to Amending Fences, if that show was written the way What About Discord was written, Moon Dancer would have kept running up into Twilight's face, saying, I hate you, and then running away. And it would have been completely annoying because Twilight would have had to chase her all around town. Whereas Twilight is trying to fix this problem, and she just keeps failing because of her own inability to realize why she fucked up.
I disagree.
And What About Discord?
But I certainly understand it. What I would say to that is that there's different types of problems that bring about different types of circumstances around them. I've seen What About Discord play out in real life, and that's how it goes. So it resonates a little bit better with me. I understand what you're saying though, and it is certainly valid.
Yeah, the thing is that I get more frustrated with episodes that appear to be huge misses of opportunity than episodes that are completely written terribly. Like, I'm more insulted by What About Discord than something like Spike at Your Service, because if they just made it to where Twilight knew about whatever Rainbow was going to, like, whatever the thing was going to be that Twilight was supposed to attend, if she, like, knew about it and forgot, then that puts Twilight in kind of the hot seat of being the one who doesn't really worry about it. Especially even if they made her know about it, realize it probably wasn't as important, and then come outside and realize that all these people were having a shitload of fun, and that she skipped out on it because she thought that some sort of royal duty that was completely voluntary was more important. That's inherently more compelling because Twilight made a choice that kind of kept her out of the fun, but it also kind of made it her fault because she decided by her own, like, quote unquote jealousy and ego, like ego especially, that it wasn't as important. I don't know. I feel that when you shift the problem onto more of being what the character did and the problem is because of the character, it's inherently more compelling. But there's also a double-edged sword with that, where depending on the problem, a lot of people will cry that, and validly, they will cry validly that the character would have never done that because they've learned by now. So it's a balancing act, and it's really hard to balance correctly. And I feel that that particular balance was not correct.
Alrighty then, I'll just do it.
There's a port in the podcast usually at the beginning, but my artist was a little slow here where I bust out the thumbnail. He did an amazing job here, but he left off the guest.
Uh-oh.
I'm like, okay. Just 1 second, if I could get the damn call to load up.
Skype's not crashing. I may be lying, but you asked me to tell you.
True enough. Give me a second.
Well, I mean, you're asking too much of Skype.
Oh yeah.
Silver Quill, how dare you sow the seeds of false hope?
Only if you don't have any real hope to offer.